Episode 65. It was Anthony all along. Hello, hello.
Hello.
All right. And before I forget, I do have a picture to share if you want to turn on the share screen.
Sure, and it should be, but
Okay.
the settings always change by themselves anyway, so one participant can share at a time. Who can share? Oh, yeah, I guess I can change that because it's only host right now. All participants.
Every single one of us.
Yeah. Who can start sharing when someone else is sharing? Yeah, I'll leave that as only host. That way we don't have everybody trying to share all at once because, that's going to happen.
They say sharing is caring, but sharing can just get annoying after a while.
All right. So, there, I think we should be good.
Okay. Good. So we'll just kind of hang here a little bit before we dive into any WandaVision, but I do have a topic to kick us off.
Oh, well, now you've ruined it. I was going to say, all right, I can't wait to talk about the greatest superhero comic book based TV show on right now, Superman and Lois.
Ah, yes. Which
I actually haven't seen yet, but I thought I'd give the little fake out.
I figured you didn't, because it just happened last night at the time of this recording. I did watch one of the two episodes because I think they did a 2-hour premiere. So
Yeah, I could have downloaded like the CW app on my phone, but I don't want to watch it on my phone. And I don't know. Eventually, I'll watch that. I've got to watch that. Of all the CW shows,
yeah,
I've got to watch that one. It's Superman. And I don't know, how it's doing. I haven't heard a ton of complaints. I mean, there have been complaints about, and I don't even know the actor's name. And,
Tyler Hoechlin, maybe
uh,
it's something like that.
sure, we'll go with that one.
Tyler Hoechlin.
Tyler something sounds right. But yeah, I mean, there's been some things said about it. And does he have your regular Superman, like typical comic book look? Not exactly. He's a little bit different. And I have seen some comments on the the scruff he always seems to be carrying, which is not typical of Superman unless he's been out off world for a while. He might come back with a little bit of a scruff on there, but otherwise Superman's pretty clean shaven. America's big blue Boy Scout. He's got to have that boyish skin, not like the full on stuff. Although I did like it when he was sporting his beard. He's done that a couple of times. When he made a return when they had the New 52 universe, but the pre New 52 Lois and Clark and John Kent first came from their reality into the New 52 thing and whatever. He was sporting a beard for a while there while he was operating in secret. But yeah, somebody compared it to like 80s George Michael look. And yeah. Right. Who knows? Maybe Superman's doing the jitterbug.
One thing that I really liked about it is that in all the different interpretations of live action Superman, whether it be in the movies or on television, this will be a different take on it with the fact of having two sons.
Yes.
And so that adds a whole, like, you get that Smallville feel, but then having what's kind of cool is that within the first 5 minutes, I think it was like an hour and 15 for the first episode, and then I think they did a second episode back to back. For the literal 5 minutes, because I was watching the clock, is they cover all the origin stuff and you just jump right into it. So it's not like you're getting, having to see, the pearls falling down. Wait, that's a different origin. Um, but I did like that in the sense of, like, how many times have we been through this? But in 5 minutes, and it was a really good version of it because you see the stuff with Lois and then the children and everything, and they just cover it all in 5 minutes, and then you're off to the races.
So,
But
so yeah, I mean, I'm happy to have a Superman TV show. In general, the CW DC stuff has been pretty good. I've been disappointed in the movie stuff, so I never get real excited. There could be a brand new Superman movie, and yeah, I'd want to check it out, but like I still haven't seen either version of Justice League. Yeah, I'm just not that excited about it.
yeah,
But if it were an animated movie, those have been pretty good. Um, an animated show, usually pretty good. The CW stuff, you know, some aspects of it will stray from the comics, and you know what? That's fine as long as they hold true to the base stuff, the character and things like that, and don't go too far away from it, because you don't want exactly what you get in the comics. Some people do. Some people want panel for panel, page for page. Let's do it again. Um, but when you've got a character that's been around since 1939, it's nice to get a fresh take, but still, it's Superman. You
and
still
in
want to get Superman, but something different, a different story, or at least a different take on a story.
and in comics, has he ever had two sons or just the one, Jonathan,
Well, in
or
like an
different versions?
actual continuity, that was
In
really
any comics that has nothing, it just wasn't in a
because
comic book.
something that wasn't like, oh, it turns out to be a dream, or it was like an alternate
Okay,
future that he peeked into, or something like that. There have been cases where he had a couple of kids at the same time,
okay.
but nothing that was like actual, like it wasn't just a dream or something like that.
So for the most part, this show is taking a new approach to having them because I think they're twins, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah, and that not identical twins, but
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll
that's
talk about
everything that
other
I've read
twins.
says refers to them as being twins, um, which isn't that far off either. Because if you look at other things with Superman lineage in the future and stuff like that, there are some stuff done where there's like twins involved and stuff like that. So it's not the first time that there have been twins in the family. Um, but again, that's been stuff like when they're telling the future, usually something that's more like not necessarily Elseworlds, but something not in your main continuity. It's just things, that have been touched on. So more than one son, more than one kid, um, twins, like, grandkids that are twins and stuff like that. They did the same thing with Flash. Barry Allen's got twins in the future and stuff like that. So I guess comics, they like their twins.
Yeah, this will be part one of two of Twin Talk because we'll talk about twins a little later on in this program.
Yeah, and
Um,
we won't spend a ton of time talking about Superman and Lois because again, I haven't even seen it yet. I can imagine, and I'm not concerned about spoilers with it, because I know it's Superman. If they do a good job, I'm gonna like it, even if they, I know something that there's not some huge twist or something like that. I already saw that there's something, and I don't get it exactly, and I don't need to dig into it or know. I hear there's some sort of a twist at the end as far as a villain, but even if I find out more about that, I'm probably fine with it.
and we all knew that I was in the bag for it, that I was going to like it. But to kind of wrap up what I saw just from browsing around, a lot of the comic creators are the people I follow. I don't read, like, they'll come into news sites here and there, but mostly I follow comic creators. and a couple of them just had a lot of high praise for it. Franco of the Art and Franco team, he's a big Superman fan, and he posted his picture with Tyler something or other. Tyler Hoechlin, I think is what it is.
Normally, it's comic book creative teams that we butcher the name on.
Yeah.
Although I'm, if you go back and you listen to like all the podcasts from the club podcast and everything, you'll learn fairly quickly that I'm bad with names, anyways.
Yeah, so he's had pretty high praise, and then he said his only criticism is that within his picture that he's taller than Superman. But Franco is also a really tall guy to begin with, but also Tyler something or other is a little on the shorter side, but whatever.
Maybe he should have been Superboy instead. Actually, it's funny. He doesn't look. I don't know how old the actor is. Him or the actress playing Lois. I don't know how old they are.
Late 30s, maybe. Just guessing.
Yeah, they're not. They don't look to be that old, and now they've got these teenage sons. So you'd think that Lois and Clark have been, married and had kids like early on.
All it took was 5 minutes. I told you.
Yeah, although it might be like the linear verse that they're doing in the comics now. So everything's happening. It's all, they age slowly. So this is the same Superman that's been around since 1939. And everything happened.
And talking about Lois, because we've seen both of them in the Supergirl show and the crossovers and things like that. And she just seems spot on. Like she just gives you those Margot Kidder vibes. And I think she's very good in the show. So.
Yeah, I'm curious about Lois because one thing that I've noticed is that it seems to be harder to pull off a good Lois than it does to pull off a good Superman or a good Clark Kent. Yeah, some have been better than others, but there's not been too many missteps with casting as far as the Superman role. Most people are able to pull it off, and they'll do a different take on it. Usually if there's a problem with Superman, it's the story. It's something with the way it was written. Superman Returns would be a good example of that. I really did not like that movie, but I had nothing against now I can't think of it. See, I told you I'm horrible.
Brandon Routh.
And I know the name, I just couldn't think of it.
And he's a Superman that I stood next to, and he's a big guy. He could kick the crap out of me. So
yeah, so I had nothing against him. I thought that he played the part well.
Yeah.
So I was happy, and I still have, because I'm way behind on all the CW stuff. I still haven't seen the Crisis stuff, but I was excited that he was coming back, even though he was already in the CW as a different character. I was excited to see that they were bringing him back as Superman and putting him in a version of the costume. Kind of happy it wasn't the Superman Returns one, because I'm not a fan of the blue and burgundy. I prefer my Superman to be blue and red with maybe a splash of yellow. But yeah, I mean that was exciting. He did it. Now Superman Returns, I wasn't a huge fan of that version of Lois Lane. I even liked Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman, but Terry Hatcher as Lois Lane, was an odd Lois Lane for me because of how kind of goofy and quirky she was. And normally I'll think of Lois as being a very intelligent, strong female character. And I think there's got to be different aspects. She's also kind and caring and everything, and a very likable character. But she definitely has to be a very a strong and strong-willed female character, and that's what I think of as Lois Lane.
And just give the names on the other one. The Superman Returns one was Kate Bosworth, but the one we're talking about from Superman and Lois is Bitsy Tulloch, is perhaps how you pronounce it. Bitsy is her name.
Yeah, and that name, that does not sound like somebody who would fit the part of Lois Lane. Somebody named, just the name Bitsy. I'm not
Sounds like a
knocking
Star
her,
Wars
but if you're judging somebody by their name, the name Bitsy sounds like it would be somebody who might be playing the more comedic, silly Terry Hatcher version of Lois Lane.
Bitsy Tillock, I guarantee you I bought that action figure from Star Wars The Force Awakens. That sounds like a Star Wars character name. So
it does.
yeah, she was on I was gonna say Tatooine, but not Tatooine. Ray's home. I don't know why I can't think of it right now. But anyways, we're not talking about that.
No, we're talking about a lot of other things. And some people are going to eventually watch this that held off in participating with Under the Cowl today because they're like, well, this is just going to be full of WandaVision again. And we do have a few other things to talk about. So they're going to tune in and be like, wait, they're not even talking about WandaVision.
And we still won't for a little while.
I was going to say you have some other things, some
yeah.
sort of agenda.
So I did go to Pizza Hut, and they did have the new item. Apparently, whatever advertised deal wasn't at that specific location, so I didn't save like $2 or $3 or something. But I made the trip in and went to West Bend to go to Pizza Hut, and my reminder to talk about it was one of these little guys here, which I wanted to bring up as part of the story. Is that when they used to put these in pizzas, which I assume is to like keep the top of the pizza box from spreading on the cheese or messing up the toppings, I assume, so it doesn't, if something gets crushed, you're not just getting it stuck to the top.
Well, I always think that those are just free like pieces to toys, because what I do with those is I'll take like the top to like a milk carton or a jug of milk or something, and I put on the top of that, and it becomes a table for an action figure diorama.
See, that's literally why I brought this up, because the Pizza Hut ones back in the day, you didn't have to do that because they did have circle ones on there. Now they save plastic by not putting them in there. But I used to use them for my Ninja Turtles because they would have pizza from the pizza shooter vehicle. So they had these large pizzas, and I could just set them right there on the table and put them around the figures in the sewer, and the turtles had their pizza. So. But yeah, that's literally why I kept this here, so I could tell that table story. Seems like you and I are of the same mind when it comes to action figures. And
yeah, I've definitely got a few of those lying around. I don't have the old ones because back then I wasn't doing that, but since they started making them like that, I've saved those. And you find various size lids. Like I said, if you're doing like a small little round table, you can take the lid off of like a gallon of milk or something like that, and put it on the top and paint it or not paint it. I mean, it works great if you want to like a whatever color milk you've got, because milk isn't like, we don't judge them by whole milk, skim milk, 2%, 1%. It's what color. It's like, hey, depending on what store you go to, say you want 2% milk, there are some differences, but a lot of times you'd be like, hey, go to the store, would you mind picking me up the dark blue milk?
I often get the people saying like, "We'll get the pink one," when they mean the purple, because that's one of those where some people will see pink, some will see purple. People have brought that up, and I'm like, well, do you mean purple? Because pink is going to be just the Chem's fat-free milk, and I'm guessing you're not going to want that because not too many people buy it. You're probably going to want the purple milk. So, or if you're Luke Skywalker, definitely get the blue milk, just straight up, or green milk.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I went to Pizza Hut because they're advertising for a limited time the Detroit style pizza. Now, I myself have never been to Detroit for pizza. Have you?
I have not. I've been to a few places in Wisconsin, and I have been to Chicago for pizza. I have not been to Detroit or any other city of any other state for pizza. No.
So I have a friend, Sean, who was on guesting on our Crimson Cowl Comic Club podcast for that one episode. He's from
And
Michigan.
we scared him off.
Yep. And rightfully so. And for that one episode, or not that, he's from Michigan, and So I sent him the pictures and I asked, "Is this the style of it?" And he goes, "That's definitely the style, but obviously, Pizza Hut's going to have one version of it, and going to Detroit and getting a homemade restaurant one, it's going to be a little different probably." So he said once COVID is over, then he said his wife is already making a list of all the pizza places that we have to go to, and I eventually visit them. So
Well, Chicago style pizza is the same thing because I've had like Chicago style pizza at Pizza Hut and a few other places, and then you go to Chicago with some native Chicagoans, and taken out for pizza, and hey, this is real Chicago pizza, and you get it, and it's like, what the hell is this?
yeah,
This
get
isn't
your
Chicago pizza.
get your Giordano's and your Geno's East and all that stuff, and it's
Yeah,
a giant like lasagna pie basically. So
yeah, but I guess it's like, if you went to Mexico and ordered a taco and complained that it's
yeah,
not real Mexican, authentic. So where's the Doritos?
yeah. Two of my good friends are Mexican, and that's the same thing when they've never been to Taco Bell, and I've raved about Taco Bell, and they would just scoff at it because yeah, none of that's going to be. Maybe not even the Mountain Dew is probably going to be as good. That. But anyways, Pizza Hut. So Detroit style pizza. Had to try it. I got it. I had to cut myself off from eating the entire thing because I'm going to save some for tomorrow. I'm going to bring up a picture here if the screen share is on. So I assume you can see it.
Um, I can't. I turned the
Oh,
screen share on,
oh, here
so
we go.
let's
No,
see.
I got it now.
Oh, okay.
One more button away. I
I
just
had to look
opened the
over to make sure
window.
it wasn't on my other monitor.
Okay. I just opened the window where I had the photo, but didn't actually do the work for it. So this here is the pizza I had. I figured rather than just showing it on my phone, I was trying to blow it up here. There we go. So it comes in the rectangle there, and it's cheese to the edge, and the sauce is on the top. Now, I was actually surprised to find out that there actually wasn't sauce, in on the crust. So they did. It was a double sauce, which I
Hmm.
would have been fine with. But
Yeah, I think if I were having it, I kind of would prefer that. I don't mind. I like saucy
yeah,
pizzas, and not everybody does. I know, like Tammy doesn't like a lot of sauce on hers. Um, but yeah, I like sauce. It can be not like too much where it's like just soaked in sauce.
yeah.
But I feel like I look at this, and my first thought was, wow, that's great. They throw a little extra sauce on the top. But knowing that, I would say this probably doesn't have enough sauce on it for me.
Yeah, that was my one complaint about it was that I would actually option for more sauce. Now, if I were to get it again, I would take a look and see if there's special instructions because I would probably say add more sauce and yeah, I'll pay an extra 50 cents for, another ladle or two of sauce. But essentially what it is basically having cheesy bread with the toppings of your choice and then sauce on top. So it was just like having appetizers for dinner. So, I mean, it's very good. It's obviously all the same ingredients, just in different shape and different order and location when it comes to the actual product. But I actually did really dig that. And yeah, like I said, the only thing I would add is more sauce. Now, they bill it as the Detroit style double pepperoni pizza. And when I saw that on the menu on the app, I was thinking, like, okay, pepperoni's not my go to. I'll have it if it's there, but I never order it, especially if it's for myself. But I was able to customize it, so I got the Italian sausage and I got the meatballs on there, as I am nicknamed Meatball as one of my. That's a story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, go back and revisit Under the Cowl episode something.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Revisit them all, and you'll get that story.
Um, so I was glad I was able to just customize it to what I want there. But essentially, cheesy bread with the toppings on top, all of them. Well, I mean, toppings are always on top, but not on cheesy bread. Um, they should call them bottomings. They should do a bottomings pizza where all the stuff is literally you have to hold on to. You have a handful of pepperoni and sausage, and then you bake your hand into the oven, and then they put the crust on top of your hand, and then yeah, bottomings pizza.
Bottoming's pizza. All right.
But yeah, I thought it was really good, and like I said, it's basically like lots of appetizer. This would just be a good backdrop for the rest of the episode if we need to. But yeah, Detroit style pizza. In about a year, I'll probably report back on some real Detroit style pizza. So um, see
To
how it
me, I
goes.
left the pepperoni because
Yeah,
you know my motto. It's not pizza if it doesn't have pepperoni. So
that's your motto. If it was you and I sharing this at a Wednesday night Crimson Cowl, I would have gladly eaten it just like that. But I'm like, well, it's just me. I'm gonna take off double the pepperoni, add double the sausage. So
yeah. See, and I'm not huge on the sausage, but I will eat the sausage if it has pepperoni.
I think Tammy's mentioned that a couple times that you're not huge on the sausage. So wait, WandaVision, I think was going to be the next thing we were talking about. Um, So yeah, that's our pizza segment. We haven't had pizza here on the show in a while, so glad to bring that back. But WandaVision, so episode 7, there's a version of this where we could just go scene by scene, and I did take notes to kind of make sure we're not missing anything. But also that could be a very long episode. So especially if it's just us two, maybe just I'm going to kind of give the brief highlights, and then we can just talk about whatever we want from the episode.
Okay. Yeah, and you're probably better at giving the highlights because you've watched it like 50 sometimes, and I've watched it once. And that's pretty much what I'll do. I'll watch one time. Eventually I'll go back and I'll rewatch
Yeah,
probably when they all come out. I don't know if I'll rewatch before the end.
yeah.
Um,
Once it's
but
all done,
but
and then
definitely at that point I'll give a whole rewatch and look for all the things that I missed and everything. But you've got them memorized, and so
got it
go ahead.
memorized on my phone here. So I just
Take it
took
away.
the notes. So these are basically the story beats. We have a Modern Family opening, talking to the camera. We've got the kids are kind of bugging out their games, and they're kind of freaking out what's going on around the house. We've got Agnes coming in and saying that she'll watch them, and they'll leave Wanda to have a little quarantine style day off inside the house. We have our office opening. We've got Vision and Darcy. We're in the circus and kind of dealing with Darcy now being in Westview, and Vision just kind of getting more information from her. So they've got a whole story. Then we have our Monica and Jimmy story going on where they're meeting up with a sword team to break into Westview, in which she eventually does. Once again, we can talk about details later. Um, Vision just constantly just thinking like, what is he doing here, doing this whole thing? He's got to go get to his wife. We have a Nexus commercial. I'll just leave it at that because that can be talked more in depth later. And then we've got Agnes again, basically a little show off between a showdown between Wanda and Monica as she enters Westview. And Agnes is the one to kind of break it up and bring Wanda to her house, into the house in which the kids have gone missing. Wanda's wondering where they are. She's told, oh, maybe they're in the basement, goes into this creepy basement, and we get what most comic book fans already knew going into the show. But this is something that I'd like to talk. And did you watch this with Tammy?
I did, yeah. So I I talked to my family about and not giving them spoilers because I didn't know, but theories,
Yeah,
and talking about some of the things that they're not going to know from the comics and everything. So it wasn't a total shock to Tammy or to my kids not knowing characters from the comics because we kind of went over some of it, and even then they don't know anything really about that character.
yeah,
um so it was not really shocking getting that twist. But at the same time it was like, I mean, you're still shocked even though you're expecting it.
yeah,
Like I was expecting it and I was still shocked because I didn't know for sure that it was happening. I just suspected it might be happening, thought it was a strong possibility that it was happening. but I didn't know until it happened. So there's still that little bit of a like surprise, like, okay, they did it, you know.
Yeah, we have Catherine Hahn, who's been playing Agnes, who within the sitcom Westview world, playing the nosy neighbor, and knowing the previews of her dressed as a witch from the Halloween episode, and just the fact that Sword hasn't talked about, who she is when they were locating all of the people trapped in Westview. She was one that they've never talked about, and but she's been pretty close to the family, and Wanda's been pretty relaxed in the last 3 episodes with doing her magic in front of her, and she's been there and seeing the kids grow up within a couple minutes, and but there was still that little bit of possible that the MCU could have maybe been trolling the comic fans this whole time, because like you said, we know what we know, but who knows where they'll spin it. And within that Halloween episode we talked about, when she was trapped on the outside edge of town, and she was very scared, and then she was snapped back into it. In my head I'm thinking like, okay, maybe she's just doing that to lead Vision out to the edge and do whatever, but also as a good misdirect for anybody who's like, okay, maybe she's not Agatha Harkness, which is what we got the reveal, the character name from the comics, and we got it in a very creepy way and then a very hilarious way when we cut to Agatha all along. She gets her own theme credits song, her own jingle, as we see all of the decades from the shows, and her just moving all the pieces around, bringing Pietro in there, and everything she's been doing. And that was the big reveal. And she puts a little hex thing to get the purple eyes, controlling eyes going on Wanda, till we cut to the credits, in which we do get our first post-credits scene as well, which I assume you watched.
Right. Well, mid credit scene.
Mid credits, yeah. I always just call them post credits, just because I don't know. Credits happen, so technically
Don't fast forward to the very end thinking you're going to get it at the end, though. It's
Yeah.
a mid credit scene. So once the credits roll, it's about 5 minutes in. And
Yeah. Whenever I see the first credit, like directed by, the credits have begun. So anything after that is post credits to me. So,
Yeah.
but yes, technically mid credits, in the sense that most of the movies will do a top of the credits and the bottom of the credits little scene. But this will be the first time, 7 episodes in which we see Pietro for the first time within this episode, dressed differently, modernly, if you will.
Right.
He's got that, Silver Surfer Norrin Rad cap type of whatever those are called. But he's got a good line when Monica's trying to figure out how to get into the house, and goes into those old tornado basement doors or whatever.
Yeah.
And
The old cellar doors.
cellar doors, yeah. And I just think of the movie Twister every time I see those. And
the Twister doors. He goes
Yes.
goes into the Twister doors.
Chubby Checkers Twister doors. But then we see Pietro show up and catches her, and it just says, "Snooper's got a snoop," and then the episode ends right there. So that is overall the episode. One thing I wanted to talk about that got me super excited was the commercial. So we do see our female actor, who's been in the other ones minus the animated shark yogurt one, and
she might have been in that too. She might have been the voice of the shark.
There we go. Yeah. And but we see for some Nexus medication, and the medication, which I wanted to write that note down, which says, as I get to my spot here in the notes, it says something that I have written down. I just have to find where. Here it goes. Ask your doctor about Nexus. Anchor you back to your reality, or the reality of your choice. But when I heard the word Nexus, my comic book brain for the Marvel Universe goes to a little character, quite big character in size, little character in importance, the Man-Thing, who is the guardian of the Nexus, the gateway to the Nexus to all realities. So I hear Nexus, and I kind of geek out a little bit, but I'm like, okay, whatever. It's just it's just a word they use. But then when you go down, Wanda goes down in the basement, you start seeing the vines and the plant life and the weird lights and stuff. And my brain is suddenly going, because Man Thing usually has like those red beady eyes, but the lights and the vines and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, with Doctor Strange 2 coming up, in which the show is, bleeding into the multiverse of madness, and it's being directed by Sam Raimi, and Kevin Feige has said it's going to be the first horror film within the MCU. Prior to this week, I didn't at all think we would see Man Thing, but now I'm like, if we see Man Thing and Doctor Strange 2, even for a small introduction, I am going to be seeing that movie 20 times in theater. You have any connection with the Nexus or any theories or?
No, first I want to point out that so as far as I know, there's no plans to make Doctor Strange an R-rated movie. So I'm not sure if we're gonna get to see his Man Thing.
Oh shoot! I got all excited right there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess you're probably right. I should probably not to expect to
Yeah.
see Cumberbatch's Man Thing.
Right. Like, who knows though? I mean, they're more and more you're seeing these R-rated projects. Um,
What if the last 10 minutes is R rated? So you watch it and then there's a warning that comes up in a little intermission and it
right.
just says,
All right, out with the kids.
yep, and we have to show here's the R rated ending.
Yeah.
Post credit scene.
Mid credits, post
Mid-credits.
credits. It's just it was fine the whole time. The credits roll. All of a sudden, it's fading. Okay, black. It's coming back into focus. Boom! There it is. The
Oh yeah.
Man Thing.
Got the
In 3D.
I tried thinking of some Doctor Strange like word and like spell, but I can't think of any funny joke to add to it. So, we'll probably end up seeing the Eye of Agamotto, if you will. So.
Yeah. Yes. The brown eye of Agamotto. Oh, wait. No.
Yeah, that's the kind of joke I was thinking of, and I didn't get there. But yeah, so when I heard Nexus and I then saw the internet was also in that same mindset of like, ooh, Man Thing, I was glad that my freak out moment, just because I love that the swamp creatures in any universe, I was glad that I wasn't overreacting in that sense. And once you connect that Sam Raimi and the horror film thing, it's not they've done a lot of weird stuff now. So Man Thing really isn't a weird character to see on screen. So
Yeah. Probably less likely, but I'm surprised that nobody jumped on it because there's they're going to bring in the X-Men. There was also something related to the Nexus and whatever having to do with Havoc, Alex Summers from the X-Men titles, where I'm trying to remember what's explained to me. Something about how he's tied basically to all realities. Basically, he's like
a Nexus,
kind of like Havoc is Havoc in all realities or whatever. It's I don't know. It's one of those weird comic book explanation for things that scientifically probably makes no sense whatsoever.
because comic.
But it's kind of just like it was thrown out there like one time or whatever, and it's probably a very obscure reference. But I'm surprised nobody, at least not that I've heard of, where people are like, you're like Man Thing, and there's probably some X-Men fans that are like, oh, okay, here's they're talking about the Nexus, they're talking about the multiverse, they're gonna bring in Havoc.
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of Havoc hashtags going on.
Yeah, I don't think that's I don't think that's going to be a thing that we need to really worry about. Although they could surprise us,
The overall style of the episode. So I was actually a big viewer of Modern Family. I didn't see it all the way to the end because there's just like 300 seasons, and eventually I couldn't keep up with it. But I mean, I probably watched at least the first 6 or 7 seasons. I think they did like 11 or 12. But that style of confessionals, talking to the camera, which obviously The Office as well, which is what
Right.
the opening credits was 100% inspired by. But the basis of the structure of the episode of almost every character talking with the camera and the cutaways was Bring It from Modern Family, and then during the Darcy and Vision circus scenes where they're like, knocking people out and stealing, falafel trucks or whatever it was, the um, funnel cake. That's what
Yeah, yeah,
somebody said falafel somewhere.
yeah.
I don't know.
I know, and that's what I'm trying to think because that sounded familiar, and now I'm
It
like,
was
was that
either,
in the
I think,
show, or did I read
I think
something that said
he
that, or
said,
there was
I,
I heard
I,
that word connected to that episode.
yeah. So that whole thing, I was getting vibes of Arrested Development and Curb Your Enthusiasm, mostly because of the music, because they just have wacky hijinks, which isn't a Modern Family thing. But it makes sense in the 2000s, 2010s of having just that style of sitcom of, zooming in and, getting reactions and zooming out and just quirky music. But how was your reaction and to that? Did you have any experience with any of those shows or anything?
Well, I've watched the Office, multiple times, but I've never watched Modern Family. So you would mention having watched like the ad or trailer
Yeah,
for the episode that's what you thought was going on. Um, Definitely, you could see some, office stuff in there. You know, the intro and everything was very office like, but at the same time, it was different enough that I'm like, okay, maybe this is a little bit Modern Family or something too, because I haven't seen it. But the confessionals, even though you obviously have that in the office, if Vision had been at work and all of a sudden they were doing that, then I'd have thought, okay, here we go, it's the office. But he wasn't at work
yeah,
whatsoever. Um, and just the way that they were doing it, the the, the also close up and closer up and
yeah,
stuff like that, that wasn't exactly office style. So I thought, okay, this is from some other show, whether it's Modern Family or some other show that I hadn't watched.
yeah,
Um, but then, I was seeing things on the internet afterwards, where I was seeing Modern Family pop up a lot. So I figured, okay, well, that's what it is. I don't know how well they captured it, but it was definitely something for that era that a lot of shows started doing. Whether it was The Office or Parks and Recreation or um, you know shows just that were going on around that time started doing this. It's a scripted sitcom,
well
but
track.
we're throwing this reality show aspect into it because that's what TV's full of, is reality shows. So they kind of intertwine that with a lot of the sitcoms of that time period.
Yeah, they captured it pretty well, and I know Julie Bowen, who is the lead, the mother from Modern Family. She said she was pretty honored to even be considered in a show that's going back to the Dick Van Dyke Show and Bewitched and Brady Bunch and doing all of those eras that once they would actually something that's obviously very recent, very current, very modern, if you will. That was the inspiration, for a show that just ended, I think within the last season of television that it wrapped up its series. But she gave pretty high praise for it, which also looks good on on the internet to maybe get Julie Bowen in an MCU project for something. It's good. It's good publicity for yourself of saying, "Hey, this Marvel thing was cool." Also, cast me if you want, because
Yeah, it
I'll do
would
it.
be interesting to know if WandaVision has had any effect on, like, have people gone back and watched these shows, and like I'm sure somebody has, but has it been a substantial number of people that have gone, oh yeah, that's Dick Van Dyke, I gotta go watch that, and then started watching Dick Van Dyke or started watching Malcolm in the Middle because they're like, oh, I think that was, and all of a sudden now they're sitting there and just watching, episode after episode of Malcolm in the Middle because, like, yeah, I think they were doing that, and it's talked about that they were doing that, and of course now, like, Modern Family, people are suddenly watching Modern Family because it's
Right? Yeah.
referenced here, and either they hadn't seen it, so now they're curious and they're going and checking it out, or they were fans, and this was a reminder. It's like, oh yeah, then they went back and watched it. I'm sure somebody is paying attention to that, to see if there's a lot more viewers, whether it's in syndication, that there's channels that play that stuff that are getting more, suddenly more people are tuning into Me TV, um, or they're just watching it on Netflix or whatever these shows are on.
And Hulu has recently been saying how they now have all of Modern Family exclusively on Hulu. I think it's on Amazon Prime too, from what I heard, but Hulu's big time advertising that. And going to what you're saying, wondering if those shows have influenced people to go back and watch it. I rewatched a lot of like Dick Van Dyke and doing best of clips on YouTube and stuff. I used to watch that stuff on Nick and Night and stuff like that. Not a whole bunch of it, but enough that I was entertained to go back and just live in that kind of world for a while. But the when Glee was on and they would cover a certain artist or their songs would go up, I know they would have a lot of popularity for the actual artist's sales on iTunes and stuff. You would see, Madonna charting again, or uh, Imagine Dragons or whatever. Which is funny because I think Imagine Dragons might have been the one band that said no to Glee or something. I could be wrong, but I may have just picked out the one band that said no to them. But
Maybe
anyway,
just imagine that.
yeah, yeah. But uh the other big chunk of the story is seeing, especially for the show, you go in for a show called WandaVision and you expect Wanda and Vision, which we've been getting every episode, but it's kind of crazy how it's turned into the origin story and the launching pad for Monica Rambeau, as we saw the little girl from the Captain Marvel movie who's working for Sword, and all that stuff happened in the last episodes. But this is one of the bigger episodes when her Sword team comes up and gives them a big truck, a big tanker that's built to basically go through the hex and go into Westview. And
Built
it's
to Monica's specifications.
yes, yes, and we see that it's having some trouble and it gets kind of spit back out. But then the front half that was like in there turned into just a normal kind of pickup
Yeah,
truck.
like an old, smaller pickup truck. It looked like one of those hybrids where people made their own camper.
Yeah, yeah.
Where they cut the bed off of an old Toyota pickup and put this big camper on the back of it. It basically looked like that. It was the same kind of thing. They had that style pickup on the front end, and it was raised up too. So I mean it was spit out and it wasn't sitting on its wheels, but if it were, you could see like the wheels here to the whatever this vehicle would be, and the pickup would like be way up here.
Yeah, and we saw that, and Wanda quickly got out as Jimmy was like saying, "Get out of there, get out of there." But then there was a moment when she realized I can make it through, and she starts ripping off the equipment and has an awesome scene where she's just basically going through the wall, and you hear a lot of clips from Captain Marvel, and you see some imagery. You hear Nick Fury, you hear some more Carol Danvers. You hear, I assume her mother was probably in there.
I think that was, and I think that I read there was a list of the voices. I mean, it was that Star Wars: Force Awakens
Yeah,
type of thing,
yeah.
where you get. I mean, so you were getting Nick Fury, Carol Danvers, her mom, Yoda, all these voices in there.
Isn't that great? Because you actually got Sam Jackson doing that in the Rise of Skywalker, and now in this, to both of his characters, former. So yeah, it's all hashtag. It's all connected.
Yeah, he was like, no, that wasn't. that actually wasn't Nick Fury in there. That was Mace Windu.
But yeah, you get the blue eyes. You get several superhero poses and landings, and Monica Rambeau, character that a superpowered character in the comics, which we're definitely seeing. It's going to be probably amping up in the last two episodes here. But the one thing I wanted to ask what your take on was, so we've been building up to this aerospace engineer, and the first episode we just hear Monica's friend. Second episode we find out it's a he because she goes, "Oh, he'll be here in an hour or something." And in this episode, like, "Oh, they're here," and then you find the sword camp and the truck, and we get all that stuff we just talked about. But when watching that, I was just like, "Oh, we're gonna have to wait one more week." That was my take on it, of just being like, oh, we almost had it. We're going to get this person eventually. But when I went on the internet, I saw a lot of disappointment of reactions of like, oh, they let us on and it turned out to be nobody. And I'm just thinking, well, I don't think that was meant to be. So
No,
what's your take on that?
right. And well, me too. I was like, they completely skipped the meeting
Yeah.
with her friend because they roll back up. Not, it was like they weren't really rolling to wherever they were meeting this person. It was like they were back, they didn't drive an hour
Yeah.
away or whatever and meet up wherever they were going to. They were meeting up this other sword unit right outside of the hex. So we skipped, meeting up with her friend, whoever it is.
Yeah.
And we don't know, like, what did they talk about? What did they do? We don't know any of that because it got skipped. Now, it'd be very odd if they don't revisit it
Yeah.
because it was a thing, even though the internet made it more of a thing, it was a thing,
Yeah.
and for them to have them leave to go meet this guy, and then they come back and meet up with this other unit who's still on the outside. It was like, we didn't miss an episode, right? um
I got a feeling that there's something that we're going to see because once again, because there's just too much focus on there, but who knows? Maybe the internet just ran with it and got too excited.
so it'll either be this awkward thing where it's never mentioned again, which shows, movies, whatever, they do that. Sometimes it happens. You get something and you're like, oh, what's that going to be? And it's never mentioned, not even whispered about. Um,
MCU has done very few little preludes going into the movies for comics to issue prelude here and there. And it just hit me that they did do one for Black Widow, expecting its release last year. They never got to an Eternals one, but also not a WandaVision one. So maybe there's a one-shot issue that's going to be about that scene or something. And that's just me being excited. But
I could see them doing that, some sort of a comic tie-in where it's like, we skipped that because we're covering it actually in the comics, in the WandaVision one-shot tie-in.
and Kevin
That
Feige,
that's definitely possible.
and
It would be weird just because the number of people that it
yeah,
could potentially like turn off that would still be like, what? Because they're not. I mean, we know that people aren't going to run out if they're not already buying comics and whatever. They're not going to run out and just beg for this comic book
yeah.
that would explain this. So they would still be lost. Now the comic book fans that are buying comics and stuff, they're going to be like, here, this is okay. Here's
My
what it is.
my
Yeah.
guess is that because Monica went into Westview in the way that they didn't expect her to go through. They expected the vehicle to go through and whatever, but she kind of went in, so they don't really know what's going on. Because also the feeds, the television show, the WandaVision hasn't been airing, so they don't really know what's going on in the inside. So my brain is thinking that Sword Team and Jimmy Woo is like, okay, we gotta get her aerospace friend back here now because who knows what's going on. And then all of a sudden Reed Richards just sticks his arm into the that's going too far. He's not going to have powers, but
That's how he gets his powers. His arm gets stuck. He's pulling it, and it's
they're all pulling about and like he's like, it's stretching, and then he turns and John Krasinski turns and winks at the camera. Vision did have his gym moment, looking at the camera and just being he did
well,
have.
you know what? Maybe it will just be revealed in the comic book, and it's not going to be the big name that we think it's going to be, but there will be a story in there. Although, as a nod, whoever this nobody aerospace guy is will be drawn to look like Jim from The Office.
It'll all come full
And
circle.
in the background, you'll have basically Dwight sitting.
Or Kevin spilling his chili, if you will. That was just a random thought that you remembered.
Wow, that chili joke just came out of nowhere.
I know, right? Just to kind of go see if I had any extra notes here as we kind of looking to wrap it up a little bit. Um, but the one thing that I thought was interesting was the mailman. So here we have Agatha Harkness, who said, it's Agatha all along, and there's some speculation going on, and that maybe not everybody in Westview is under her control, that maybe she's got some people working for her, whether she's controlling them or we have some other warlocks and witches. And we see Dottie again for the first time since episode 2, played by Emma Caulfield. I was excited to see her again. She's like pruning the bushes, and she just looks, once Wanda's going out to have the little square off with Monica. And there's a line that is said where Monica is just saying, "This is what Hayward's doing out there, and he's trying to do, turn Vision into a weapon. He's trying to use him against you, blah blah blah." And she goes, just wanted to get the line right. Uh, Don't let Hayward make you the villain. And I love Wanda's delivery of, "Maybe I already am," and that's when Agnes comes in and splits it up. But some of the other neighbors around there, like I said, I think Dottie's somebody we don't know until next week. But then that mailman, who has been present in a lot of episodes and just kind of connect close to Wanda in that sense. But on his shirt, it says Presto, as he's delivering like an Amazon type of delivery this week. Presto is a very magical type of term. So that's one thought that's going out there.
He's actually Doctor Strange.
Ooh.
No, actually, there's a theory going around concerning Dottie as well, having to do with the flowers that she's tending her bushes and stuff like that. And I don't know, are you familiar with the theory on her?
I've heard several things. I'm not sure if I heard what you said.
Well, the one is based on the flowers, because Wanda has like the red flowers around her house. Agnes, or Agatha, has purple flowers around hers. Of course, Wanda is the Scarlet Witch, so she's going to have the shades of red, like her powers. We find out that Agatha Harkness, her powers come out in purple, and her flowers are purple and whatever. So Dottie, if you see in that scene, and she's taking care of her garden and whatever, all of her flowers, regardless of what kind they are, whatever, are yellow. So, I mean, that could be a variety of things, but it could mean something. So one thing that was thrown out there is there's a character, I can't remember the name because I'm not really familiar with the character. It's a member of the Squadron Supreme, actually, who is a magic-based powers, and her powers in the comics always manifest in yellow. So that's going around. Squadron Supreme, I don't know if that's something where it is one of those kind of lesser known, more obscure things. Marvel's been trying to use more of those characters, and it could potentially be a way to work one of those characters into the MCU, even as a minor character that could potentially lead to something down the road. So that theory has been thrown out there that, maybe it's actually this character.
If it gives more work for Emma Caulfield, I'm all for it. So I would like to see her some more. But yeah, I haven't heard that one, but because I just keep hearing a lot about, like, is this character Mephisto? Is that character Mephisto? Maybe this character's Mephisto. Maybe the red car in the driveway's Mephisto. Who knows whatever's going on, but yeah.
Well, Marvel doing the Squadron Supreme could be interesting because, the people who aren't happy with the way that Warner Brothers and whatever has done movie versions of DC characters.
There you go.
This is the chance for Marvel to do something. But, everybody would be like, oh, they're just ripping off DC.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That would be pretty good. But yeah, that was all of the major things from my notes. Was there anything that was left for you to mention or talk about before we wrap things up here?
Um, no, I think we pretty much covered, especially you pretty much covered uh, WandaVision uh, pretty well, and what's going on and our reactions and everything. That's all taken care of. I'm looking forward to the next couple episodes. I'm wondering if they are going to be longer because it's the last two.
Yeah,
Um, After which we will have, probably a week of not talking about WandaVision unless we have like
or just
we're talking about all the stuff like
talking about it more.
well, I'm sure that we'll talk about afterwards. We'll take a break for a good week, not talk about WandaVision. Maybe get a few people on who aren't up to date of it, so they don't feel like they can't participate because of the
Yeah.
spoilers. Um, and we'll do that before we go on and start talking about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Which, by the way, is being said to be almost an 8 hour movie. There was an event that went on this afternoon. Kevin Feige, it was big just movies and television for networks and studios. And Anthony Mackie's been going on saying that it feels like an 8 hour movie. So I think there's going to be 6 episodes. So it looks like we are going to get our hour plus episodes for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And Feige just corrected his statement a little more by saying almost an 8 hour movie. But it sounds like we're definitely going to get 6 large episodes when it comes to Falcon and Winter Soldier. May was originally going to be for Loki, but they had actually it's going to be June like 11th or something. But it makes sense because Star Wars has that Bad Batch
Yeah,
television show that
May the 4th.
Yep. So, and they were, it obviously makes sense for Disney Plus to be like, all right, take a month off of Marvel because, hey, maybe Black Widow will hopefully be in theaters, but we also have Star Wars to lead you into your next month's subscription to get Loki, and that goes into the What If animated series, and the fact that Ms. Marvel and Hawkeye are almost done filming, and right after they're done filming, then She-Hulk and Moon Knight start filming. So they're going to be pumping this stuff out. We'll have plenty to talk about there. But
Right.
my only prediction for this kind of 2 episode finale in the next 2 weeks, not one episode per week. Um, I have a feeling that with all of that Agatha reveal, that it just happened in a funny jingle. It feels like this next episode's going to be how it all happened with going back to that footage from Sword and getting Vision and her grief after Endgame and what Agatha's whole thing is about. I got a feeling we're just going to get a lot of that up until whatever big shocking ender to kind of catch us up back up to that basement scene, which Vision and Monica and Pietro and leading to that last episode just being full out MCU craziness. So yeah,
Um, yeah, and I'm also still wondering because even though we've been told now that it's been Agatha all along, you still got to wonder, has it just been Agatha all along?
yeah, I got a feeling that the kids are maybe some bargaining chips that she was kind of sent to get to maybe open up some kind of bring somebody from the Nexus reality to bring that have man thing open a door for this person.
And I'm wondering if they needed the kids almost like, it's one possibility is that whoever's behind this, whether it's Agatha or somebody else, needed Wanda and Vision to come together and to create, this family, these kids, and that the kids were then wanted. They needed them somehow for the plan. That's why they're missing what they're being used for. I don't know. We know based on what the comic book storyline is that this seems to be heavily influenced by what could potentially happen, but we don't know for sure. And the MCU does have the tendency to take inspiration from these stories and do something different with them. So, who knows? At this point, anything could happen.
That's what's exciting, being the reader and the fan of the movies and stuff, is that I've said it before at the shop when somebody had asked me, like, with Endgame coming up and, you're more into this than I am, like, do you know what's going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I've read every Thanos Infinity story. I own every single comic that he deals with the Infinity Stones. I have no idea what's going to happen in Endgame. And I didn't.
Like I've told you, this guy I work with that watches it, and like every time he watches one, he comes in and immediately he's like, "What's the deal with what are they doing?" It's like he saw the same thing I saw. He understands what I understand, and yet still thinks that I have some insider information. Like, I'm waiting for my payday, because obviously I've co-written these scripts and everything.
And that was the one thing I got lost on actually at the start of this conversation, is that I've got two friends that are huge MCU fans, dabbled very lightly in comics, but mostly, next to nothing. And I don't tell them anything about, I leave out certain things, like especially Agatha. So my first thing, even though, it was not a shocker slash a shocker for the Agatha reveal, I immediately asked them, oh, three friends actually. I asked all three of them. They had no clue. It was a complete shock to them. And I'm like, you know what? That's good, because, there's definitely a side of the audience that would be like, well, of course it was her. Duh. You pick up a comic book. Like there's those kind of people that make people not want to go inside comic shops because you're being an asshole. And
if I pick up a comic book, is it going to turn into me? Is it going to turn me into a turd like you?
here, I picked up a comic book, The Treehouse of Horrors, that happens to be laying here.
Well, there you go. Now you know everything about it.
So there's definitely that side of the audience that are just like, well, duh, it's so predictable. This is trash because, of course, it was her, because look at her name and blah, 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 because comics. But then there's that
you're not a real fan.
Yeah. Then there's that other side of the audience, especially my three friends that I was so excited to ask, even the ones that didn't even know about the Winter Soldier reveal in the movie, not knowing it was Bucky, and I was getting excited because they're not going to know. They reacted the way Cap reacted, of like, Bucky? And then who the hell is Bucky? Except they didn't say the who the hell is Bucky. They were just like, what? So getting their reactions, they had no clue. And that just made me more excited for the show, because I'm like, well, it worked. Their job was done. They got all the comic people wondering for 7 episodes, while the other people were enjoying the show and liking Catherine Hahn. And now they're just like, oh my God, I can't wait till next week, which I think we all are at. So,
yes. So
yeah. Having said that.
Yeah, I was going to say, my chocolate milk is gone, which means it's time to wrap it up. It's also way past your hard out time.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap it up. Besides, I've got to go. I've got to do some preparing. I got a big day tomorrow. Got some awards to win. For reference, go back a couple of episodes and learn about my my award-winning Chalsa, which we are having our 4th annual Lakeside Chili Cook-Off. Chalsa is my chili. That's just what I call it. And so I got to make it, and we'll see if I take first place again, second, third. I don't even, maybe somebody will actually bring in just a crock pot full of like cans of Hormel chili, or stop at Wendy's and just get like a big vat of Wendy's chili and bring in and see how that does.
Hey, I'm pulling for you.
We've joked about doing that several times. I'm just waiting for the time that somebody does it. But we'll see. So I will have to update everybody next week, or if I don't update everybody next week, it's because I didn't win.
Sounds good. And like every episode, I only have one final thing to say. And I killed Sparky too.
There we go. All right. That's a keeper.
I did like her over exaggerating acting when like checking the mirror and just like pursing her lips, and I was just like, she just did like a different pursed lip every single time. Uh, she's great.
Uh,
I've been watching her since 2003. I think she was in the. I think that's when the movie was for How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days with Kate Hudson. She was one of the girlfriend characters in there, and I think that's where I first saw her. So from that to Step Brothers to everything else, and to Doctor Octopus's. What was she in the Spider Verse movie? The
yeah.
Doctor Octopus or whatever it was.
Yeah, she was like that female version of Dr. Octopus. Yeah.
All right. Anyways, good up.
So, and that's what they'll do. That'll be the big reveal, is that she wasn't actually Agatha Harkness. It wasn't magic. It was all science. She's Dr. Octopus.
There we go.
That'll be a tie-in to Spider-Man Phone Home.
That's right. We didn't have time to talk about that, but we did cover a lot this episode.
No, that's not even the title. Spider-Man Home Slice.
Did you see what it is now, though? The real
Yeah.
one? Okay.
Yeah.
After the three fake ones are.
Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yep.
What was the other fake one? It was
Home Wrecker. I saw that writer Brian Lynch was talking about that since the Spider-Man movies are following the National Lampoon's Vacation idea of vacation and like the Europe and European vacation, that Spider-Man Home for the Holidays would have been a good Christmas. But
yeah, or maybe they'll tack that on. No Way Home for the holidays.
There you go. Okay, that's gonna be it for me then.
All right.
I got some lemonade to finish.
Well, I'll